Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today, I want to take a little time and discuss what's going on up in Canada. You know, our friends up in the Great White North are facing a new round of gun control. And it's not minor gun control, it's pretty much a ban on sales and possession of handguns, pretty much all of them, and semi-automatic rifles. So it's a pretty severe piece of legislation. Old Trudeau, who I've never understood why he's prime minister, he's not qualified at all. He was a substitute school teacher and amateur boxer. He just happened to have a famous last name. He has decided that he wants to disarm his the peasants, basically, you know, his subjects. So he wants to ban handgun sales and possessions. He wants to ban semi-automatic rifles and high-capacity magazines, which means basically standard capacity magazines. And he just wants it to where the only thing you got is, you know, maybe a bear gun, a rifle, something you can hunt with. That's about it. You'll have nothing for self-defense. And people are asking me a couple of things. The first thing they're asking me is, how can they do this? How can just one guy decide he wants to do this and then get, you know, their parliament to do it? Wouldn't it take a lot more than this? No, not really. Not in Canada. You got to remember, Canadians aren't so much citizens as they are subjects. They don't really have very many individual rights. I mean, they have some rights, but most of their rights are collective. You know, what's best for the people kind of a thing. And as far as having a constitution that spells out individual rights, it's pretty weak. So things like this, people that come to power because of their last name, and people that are in the parliament, often because of their last names or how much money they have, they get to decide what they're going to do to everybody else. And there's not a whole lot of recourse. Unless they're violating basic human rights, there's not much you can do in the courts because, like I said, subject more than a citizen. And so that makes it easy to violate an individual right. If they can say that, you know, this guy wants to own a gun, that's his trying to have an individual right. We're going to say you can't do that unless you're part of a collective, you know, like unless you're in the military or police, etc. So he's going to lose out on an individual basis. Now, does it matter that it's millions of individuals? They don't care. Like I said, they wield almost absolute power. They have very little, the citizenry has very little recourse to fight back. They don't have a strong constitution like we do as far as like First Amendment, Second Amendment, etc. So they're pretty much at the whim of their government, which is the one thing I've never wanted to happen down here. So as far as answering the question, why can this happen so easily? It's because they don't have things like the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, that so fervently defend their individual right to do certain things, say certain things, own certain things. So government can just trample on them. All they got to do is make a decree. You know, Trudeau makes a decree, and then his cronies in the parliament say, yo, you know, whatever they say. I don't know what Canadians say. Canuck or something. Or, is that what they say? I forget. But, I know what the SCTV people used to say, but I don't think Bob and Doug McKenzie are real. So, but that's why. That's how they can do it. Now, another question people have been asking is, how is this going to affect America? How is it going to affect the USA? Is it going to just trickle down? Are our politicians going to do the same thing? Is it going to affect us? And yes and no. No, they're not going to write legislation that's the same because they'll never get it passed. They wouldn't have a chance. The First Amendment and the Second Amendment are there defending our rights. And over the last decade or two, more and more of those rights have been declared an individual right. See, our country is based a lot on individual rights, the right of the individual to enjoy certain freedoms free of government intervention. So therefore, it's a lot harder here to do without facing lawsuit after lawsuit and going to the courts and losing, like New York is about to lose, in the or most likely, I don't want to jinx it, about to lose in the Supreme Court with their regulations on guns. So here in the States, we're not just subjects, we're citizens, and we have a say in things. And we have individual rights that are much more strongly protected than a lot of other countries. It's down on paper. So doing something like what they're doing up there, like Joe Biden just can't say, I'm banning handguns, and then go to his cronies in Congress and say, make it so. You know, he's not Captain Picard. Not going to work here. More so there than here, but not going to work here. They would actually have to get some sort of bill together. They'd have to get enough people signed on to get onto it. They would have to get support for it, not only in Congress, but those people that are being elected are going to have to see support back home for it. And even the guy on CBS the other day, which was surprising to see honesty on CBS, when they said, well, if 90% of people agree to gun control, why don't we get stronger gun control? And he's like, well, that's not real. You can make polls say whatever you want, but the thing is, those people in Congress that are saying, we want gun rights, no to gun control, those people are saying what their constituents want them to say. You know, no congressman represents 90% of the country. They represent their percentage of the country, their section. And those sections of the country do not want gun control. This whole idea that everyone wants gun control is liberal garbage, or leftist garbage, I guess I should say. It was nice to see a little bit of honesty from them. And he said gun control, no matter how much show they put on, it's not only not on the table, the table's not even in the room. Were his own words. And I agree. You know, the politicians like the what's-his-face that made that speech on the floor saying, only in America do school children get killed at school, which showed his blatant ignorance of the world. Because kids are getting killed in their school buildings at much higher rates in other countries. Ukraine, Africa, Middle East, etc. China even sometimes. And they got a total lockdown on their citizens, and yet they still have crazies slip through and kill kids with knives and stuff. So he and some other people, like I said, they're putting a big show on it right now of, oh, we're going to do a bipartisan bill, and we're going to... That's just to drum up their base and to get donations to their campaigns. That's all it is. Both sides love a good murder. They love a mass murder because when that happens, both sides can rile up their bases by saying, the guns aren't the problem. The guns are the problem. Both of them will rile up their bases and money will start flowing like crazy into their election campaigns, which they also siphon from to live extravagant lifestyles. So they love this type of thing. Don't ever think they want it to stop. So they're going to put on a show of trying to get gun control passed. Ain't nothing going to pass, nothing of any merit, especially not now when courts are striking stuff down. It's kind of hard to get a lot of will behind a bill that is likely going to be struck down soon. Or will likely be struck down right after it's written. And also, it will anger your constituents at home, so you probably won't get reelected. And it won't stand, and you won't get reelected. So it's hard to get politicians behind that other than to give it lip service. So probably not going to happen at all. I would say there's like maybe a 5% chance we see any gun control in this country. What they have up there definitely isn't going to trickle down here because remember, down here, the people actually have more of a say in what their politicians do. They have more rights down here. We have a court system that better respects the individual right down here. So not likely to happen like it's happening in Canada. So no, it won't affect us that way. But will it affect us other ways? Yes, I do believe it'll affect us some ways. Especially me. I think it could affect me very positively. And I'll tell you why I say that. Because I have always wanted to live in Victoria, BC. Think it's beautiful. Love the city. Love the waterfront. Love everything about it. I would live there in a minute if you actually had rights up there. If Canadians were citizens that had individual rights, I'd move up there in a minute. But I can't. But now that Trudeau wants to basically just disarm everybody in Canada, except for their military and, the Dudley Do-Rights running around on the streets, I think now if he does that, if he succeeds in getting rid of handguns and standard capacity magazines and semi-automatic rifles to where all you got is basically a musket or like a 5-shot magazine hunting rifle, I think that Washington, I'm not even going to say the United States. Washington State could probably invade and take over the whole British Columbia area and make it the next state. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, that would suck because that would fuck up the flags. 51 states. Well, we don't need 2 Dakotas. North and South Dakota, there's like 138 people in one and 75 people in the other one. We don't need 2 states for that. Just combine them into one, and then we will create a new state. I don't know what we would call it. What's a famous Canadian thing? I don't, Beaverville or whatever. Justin Bieber's like the only thing I can think of that's famous from Canada. Well, Celine Dion maybe, but I don't want to name it Celine Dion Town or whatever. But we'll think of something. We just call it SCTV the state. I'm okay with that. But we could take them over pretty easily. I think like in a weekend. Just completely take over BC, become part of America, the 50th state, since, like I said, combining the Dakotas. We don't need those. Wouldn't have to change the flag. We would have to change a lot of maps, but sometimes expense comes with, profit. So that's how I do think it could affect us. Like I said, I think that the state of Washington could take over Vancouver, BC, and Victoria, BC, and I could move to Victoria, BC, where I would still have my rights as a citizen now. So that would be a very positive thing. So in that way, I do think it will affect us. But in any other way, nah, I don't think we have to worry about it. Like I said, they're subjects. We're citizens. All right, everybody, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you come back again tomorrow. Until then, I just want to remind everyone to always carry, hopefully eventually in our 50th state, up in Canuckistan, or whatever we call it, and stay safe until I see you again. Today, I want to address what's going on up in Canada right now. The gun ban, Canadian, going on. And a lot of people are asking me a couple of different things. They're asking, I want to take a few minutes, God fucking damn!